All right, so I'm here today, right now, talking to you about how to lead an inductive Bible study. So I just got done meeting with a small group, one of my students leading. It was the first one of the year, so we're just trying to figure out what we're going to do. And then this right here is me coaching that person what to do. So in the future, that might look like many people joining this chat and being here and talking. So here's a chat. Hello, world. I spell hello correctly. So that is what this group is going to be about, what these videos are going to be about. So we are going through the book of John in the small group. So let's go ahead and pop that up and talk about it a little bit. I would say there are many different ways you can do a Bible study. And this probably isn't the best way for someone who is first getting into the Bible. Maybe it is. There's different ways, though. You can have a very topical Bible study. So Cru has this resource called thrivestudies.com, or also an app called Thrive Studies, that have some really cool resources that I think would be great for follow-up. So someone who is new to their faith or someone who really isn't active in their faith, there's some really cool Bible studies in that. Going to thrivestudies.com. I'm going to show you that real quick. Let's see what I can do here. Don't know what that is. Oh, that's sharing. I want to know if I can share my screen. Pop out chat. I don't think I can share my screen. So I might have something right here one day that's just a screen to show what I'm showing. I can even do this. It's going to be a little cringy at the beginning, so bear with me. But here is Thrive Studies right here. This isn't working so well because of the brightness. And because it's trying to go to the other side. All right. Yeah, we'll probably need a better camera or something for this. So here's Thrive Studies. It's a little hard to see right here. It just says Thrive Studies. And here's a whole bunch of Bible studies that we have. Usually when we first meet with somebody with Cru, we go through the 4 Spiritual Law booklet or the 4.com, or we use the God Tools app and basically go through the 4. Whatever 4 version you want to do, it's usually that. So we would go ahead and do that, red and whatever. Then we would go to the follow-up right here. So it's this picture, this rock. So if you go ahead and go and click that, it's the Getting Started with God series. And in this, I'd say this is really good for going one-on-one with somebody who's like a brand new Christian or something like that. So you have the Confidence series, the Reconnecting with God series, Holy Spirit series or study, then the Growth study. And usually if I'm first meeting with somebody, this is the first thing I do. Even if I want to get them in a Bible study one day, the goal is to be like, hey, let me share the gospel with you. Do you want to meet for the next 4 weeks and do this? So do this is the step you do before going into this next part of doing an inductive Bible study. So even if they already know the gospel and all of that, I will still go into that so they know how to share that with other people. So coming back here, hello, Superman. Don't know if you know, I like Superman. You will notice that. Leading an inductive Bible study, we're going to go through the book of John. And this week, we just did the whole just chapter 1, which probably isn't the best thing to do, but we did it. So I am doing John 1. We'll do ESV. As you can see, there's kind of a couple parts. Verses 1 through 18 is just like a poetic, like connecting Jesus to Genesis. Verses 19 through 28 is talking about John the Baptist, and then Jesus and John the Baptist up to 34. And then 35 through the end of it, 51, is Jesus talking to Philip and Nathaniel and getting them to follow him. So, with a Bible study that's inductive and like talking to people, there are three things you want to do. First, you want to do observations. So I'm not sure, you might go and like talk to your group about this. So this group that we're meeting with is the second year of the meeting. So maybe you talk about observation, interpretation, application. But even if you don't talk about it, I want you as the leader, Bailey, or whoever's leading, to know this. So first, when you're reading it, you're just observing everything that's in this passage. You're not trying to take like it to mean something for us today, right now. So it says, where is it? I mean, you could always try to take application, and people do that, but it's more about looking at what it says in the text first and just observing the text and then interpreting what does that mean in that time and how does that relate to today. And then it goes an application of how you would be able to use context to use what it talked about then today. So if I was doing this and I was doing the small group we just did over again, I'd probably just go into John 1 and go and just read the Word became flesh section. So 1 through 17. So read it straight through, maybe popcorn it when you're going around. But in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God, and all things were made through him, and without him was not anything made that was made. Ugh. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. He was a witness to bear witness about the light, that all might believe through him. He was not the light, but he came to bear witness about the light. The true light, which gives light to everyone, was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world has made through him, yet the world did not know him. He came to his own, and his own people, but did not receive him. But to all who receive him, who believe in his name, he gave the right to become children of God, who were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. And we have seen his glory, glory as of the only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth. John bore witness about him and cried out, "This was he of whom I said, he who comes after me ranks before me, because he was before me. For from his fullness we have all received grace upon grace. For the law was given through Moses, grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. No one has ever seen God, the only God, who is at the Father's side. He has made him known." So just observing this, we realize it's parallelizing, or there's parallels between this and Genesis. If you want to go deep into it, you can look at Genesis and this and see kind of what the differences are and what the similarities are. I would also suggest doing some research yourself. When doing research, especially on the internet, the Bible is your final authority. So if you find someone from a pastor and like it sounds legit, if he is speaking truth of the Bible, then I would go for it. But you have to be careful because there are false teachers. So just to know that you can use Google, but the Bible is the final authority. If there's something that the pastor or teacher says that's off point and doesn't follow with the Bible, I would be careful and just know that that's not, yeah. So go through this. What do you observe? What happened? What is he talking about? Ask those kind of questions to your people. And then maybe once you got that with that, then go on to 19 through 28 or 19 to 34 and read that with your group and ask them what's going on. And try to formulate have them just repeat the story back to you so they know, that they know what they're reading. That's really good in these contexts. And then keep on doing that. Ask questions, get them to see it. If I were you, I would make sure that I read it beforehand, like multiple times. And there's different ways you can look into it and work into it. I would say the first thing to do is start off with, I don't have paper in front of me, box. Start off with like a box. And this is verses 1 through 16, or let's look at John. I mean, you can kind of cheat by using the titles. The Word became flesh. So 1 through 18 is that. But I would probably put 1 through 18, what happened, and then another box of like the testimony of John the Baptist and what happened, and kind of have like a timeline of just what happened in the chapter. And maybe you can do that for chapter 2 and chapter 3. That way you're thinking about it more in text, more in like blocks instead of words. And maybe if you can think of it in blocks, you can kind of remember where things are in the book. So then you remember John 3 talks about Nicodemus going to Jesus. And it talks about how can I enter into my mother's womb again? Like, what does it mean to be born again? So it talks about that. And it also talks about the bronze serpent. And looking at it through blocks, I feel like might be a good way for you to be able to understand it more. So when you're reading this, take notes, kind of do a summary of like different blocks of the text. And if you're going to be leading this group with others, you really want to focus in on that. So that's all I have for John 1. We'll go ahead and do John 2 next. Peace.